seeing everybody come to real life, into fruition here. Perfect. Awesome. So I see we're connected here. We are good to go. All right, we're going to start here in 1 minute, folks, just getting people a little more time to get in, and we'll start at 4 p.m. All right, we're going to get started here. Good afternoon and welcome, everyone. As some of you may know, my name is Jasmine Alfonso, and I am the Manager of City and Community Initiatives at the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. We're so excited that you are here today and that you're able to join us for today's webinar series, the Caregiver Community Connection C3, presented by the Elizabeth Dole Foundation and empowered by our partners at Wounded Warrior Project. Our goal with this webinar series is to bring military, veteran, and family caregivers engaging content on important topics and provide opportunities for peer connection and support. Today's webinar, Healthy Hacks for a Positive Mindset, will feature Amy Heffernan with the Travis Manion Foundation. But before we get started, I wanted to mention to all the attendees that we will be recording this broadcast. It's also going to be live on our Hidden Heroes Caregiver Community page. And we're also open to any suggestions for future topics. We want to hear from you, any speakers, ideas that you have for other series that we should be considering. Please feel free to email us at info@elizabethdolefoundation.org. We have a lot of information to cover today, but we'll be taking your questions at the end of the webinar. Feel free to submit any questions using the Q&A box, which is located at the bottom of your screen on the control panel. You'll see it right there in the middle. And our lovely moderator, Aubrey, who is the Director of Events at the Elizabeth Dole Foundation, will be engaging with you in the chat box and encouraging you to submit those questions, and she'll be reading them out towards the end. Just as a reminder, from today's webinar will be available after. We'll follow up with you with all the links that Amy is going to talk about, all the resources, and also the live recording. I also wanted to let you all know that we will have a few giveaways today. We'll have 4 chances of giveaways. What we'll be giving out today is a $25 Amazon gift card, a Wounded Warrior Project journal, and then we're also having Travis Manion Foundation is putting together a little special swag bag all together for you guys of something that we'll be able to send out to you special today from today's episode. So please join me in welcoming Amy Heffernan as we get started. Amy, go ahead and take it away.
Thanks so much, Jasmine. You know, I'm truly honored just to be here today to talk with you all. I wish I was face-to-face and able to see you all, but for the time being, this is what we will do with, right? You know, I'm really excited to have the opportunity to share just a little bit about my story, my kind of positive growth mindset, how I've tried to take some of the challenging times that I've been faced with in my life and create more of a positive mindset and just an improved overall well-being for myself and the others that I surround myself with. You know, I know many of us are going through so many different challenges and obstacles that we're faced with daily just as a result of the pandemic. And when I think about those feelings, those emotions, you know, anxiety, stress, feeling overwhelmed, scared, you know, there's so many different emotions that I'm channeling right now that I experienced very early on at another time in my life. And, you know, the one thing I will say is that I've learned, and I'm sure many of you here today can relate, is that when we go through very difficult and challenging times, those are the times that we learn more about ourselves. Those are the times that challenge us to become more resilient and to become stronger versions of ourselves. So, you know, that time for me was really in September of 2010. And that September 21st, 2010 was the day that I lost my husband at the time, Brendan Looney, who was killed in a helicopter crash on his last and final combat mission in Afghanistan. And I'm sure, as you know, many of you may or may not be able to relate to a loss like that. We've all experienced some kind of loss in different ways. And, you know, for me, it was really about figuring out, how do I find a way to try to embrace this loss, trying to navigate this new normal in my life and finding a positive way forward. And, you know, I would say probably about 3 or 4 years after Brendan's loss, I really hit this fork in the road. And I was honestly just in a place of just feeling stuck and very lost. I felt like I could have gone in one of two directions. You know, one was really kind of just allowing my grief to consume me and, you know, allowing that to just take over my life and not really trying to find a way to accept this loss, accept that my life has changed forever and will be changed. But I could also try to pick up the pieces and find a way to try to live a healthy life and try to embrace some of these things that I've learned by being tested and challenged and scared, and try to find a way forward. And for me, that platform and that forum was really about getting involved with the organization that I work with now, the Travis Manion Foundation. And the foundation is really about just creating a unified and supportive community that's led by our military community members, where individuals hone in to what their character is and how do you leverage that to serve a purpose that's so much greater than one individual. At the foundation, we're providing empowerment opportunities that help our members really thrive in that next chapter of life and focus on improved well-being measures. Now, the way that Travis Manion Foundation, you know, really puts and describes this ability to kind of thrive and feel like you have a sense of purpose and meaning and community again is really through two different ways. The first being, you know, when you're focusing on trying to improve yourself, you want to focus on that education, that forum that you have the ability to learn and grow and develop yourself. And I'm going to talk about one of these opportunities a little bit later in today's webinar, but one of those is through our online learning platform, and that's called our Spartan Development Center. And we'll walk through that a little bit more in detail later, but there's resources and learnings that are available to you, to everyone, military or non-military, that you can work on finding ways to become a better version of yourself, focusing and taking that time on developing who you are and what you want to be. Another thing that we offer are an online workshop called Leading with Your Strengths. And this is really about taking the time to dig in to what you're good at. You know, what are those strengths? What do they look like? And how can I learn to utilize those to really make an impact in my life and in the life of others? So that personal development and education piece is really the first piece of what we do with our military community and non-military community. And then it's about taking those you know, opportunities that you've taken to improve yourself, and how do you pay that forward? And the way that we do that at the Travis Manion Foundation is through service to others. How can I put these things that I've learned to better myself into action on a daily basis? And you'll see when you go to our website at travismanion.org, there's opportunities to be trained as a mentor, to work and teach character and leadership to young adults. There's opportunities for you to serve. And while many of those community service elements might look a little bit different, like our Operation Legacy projects, we have opportunities available that you can actually kind of serve in place. You know, find ways to distribute and pick up food that can be used at different food banks to give out, and various different ways of what works in this new normal. And another thing that I think many of you have shared that you've been involved with is our 9/11 Heroes Run. And we host that every year around September 11th. It's a large community event. You can come out, volunteer, run, you can participate virtually. There's many different forums on how you can still remain engaged, but that's really to honor and remember those that have made the ultimate sacrifice after 9/11 and beyond, whether you're a first responder, military service member, and our frontline workers, like our healthcare workers right now. So that's the whole concept of what we're doing at the foundation, is finding ways to empower and develop our community, but giving them a forum to go out and put that into action through service, living that mantra that we speak at the foundation, Travis's words, if not me, then who?
Oh, I love that, Amy. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I appreciate you sharing your personal story and connecting it into how that led you to the work that you're doing now, which is really inspiring. So many people would have, not been able to take a step forward to be able to constantly share and to live that legacy in the way that you are through the foundation. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. We really appreciate that. And I'm definitely looking forward to hearing more as we continue to think of other ways that you're going to be sharing that people can get involved just like us with the foundation. And to see one of our poll questions that we're going to have actually leads up to others that may have already known about the Travis Manion Foundation. So we're going to launch a poll right now. Aubrey, if we can ask you to come back on here.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Aubrey is back. She is going to read out our polls for us that we have here. And then she'll also announce our giveaways. And then we're going to get into, Amy's going to go over those healthy hacks and explain to us a lot of different ways that we'll be able to use that. And later on, we're also going to showcase an activity and a bunch of resources we're going to show you through the Travis Manion Foundation website.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jasmine. So as you can see, we just launched a poll here. We have 2 questions in this first poll. The first question is, how have you dealt with stress and or challenging moments in your life? And you can select several of these options. Maybe all of these apply to you. But one of our answers is yoga or meditation, physical activity, journaling or reading, connecting with friends and family, or therapy and counseling. So that is our first question in our poll. The second question in our poll today that's up is, before this webinar, have you heard about the Travis Manion Foundation? Again, you can select several of these if these apply to you. But yes, I volunteered at an event. Yes, I participated in a community service project. Yes, I participated in their mentorship program. Yes, I participated in their 9/11 Heroes Run. Yes, I have attended a personal development workshop. Yes, I have heard about the Travis Manion Foundation through a friend. Or no, I have never heard of the Travis Manion Foundation before today. So that poll will remain up for the next few minutes here. So we encourage everybody that is on with us today to please go and vote in these polls. We will share the results with you later in this broadcast. Right now, we have the first 2 winners for today. These 2 winners, we're very excited about that. These winners will receive a $25 Amazon gift card, a Wounded Warrior Project journal, and the Travis Manion Foundation is graciously giving swag bags with mixed goodies to our winners today. So we're really, really appreciative of that. And thank you to Amy for making that happen for our winners. So our first winner today is Ashley Williams. Ashley, I'm going to reach out to you on the chat. Congratulations. We're going to find out where we can send this to you. So stay tuned for that. But congratulations to Ashley. And we're also going to award Ida Carson with our second our prize today. So Ida, I will reach out to you in the chat today and find out where we can get all these goodies sent to you. But congratulations to you both.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Aubrey. Congratulations to Ashley and Ida. This is an exciting prizes that we have today and what we'll be giving out. So Aubrey will connect with you, like she said, in the chat. And Amy, now we'll turn it back to you to take it away, to share with us some of those positive hacks and teach us a little more about what we should be doing and what we can start applying to our daily lives.
Yeah, thanks, Jasmine. I think a lot of us have realized, as we've weathered through this pandemic, there's definitely short-term challenges and problems that we're faced with. And I think we're very all clear on what those look like, between financial hardships, lack of employment, access to food. The list can really go on. But I think what I want to share a little bit more about today is really thinking about what this long-term problem and what the impact is going to be to us as a society. And I really think a lot of that, and I'm sure many of you have seen the research on, the struggles that we're going to face on the mental health side of all of this. When you put people, they're isolated, they don't feel like, they're thriving, and they have that sense of purpose and meaning. They're not connected. They're not being able to build and, maintain those relationships face to face like we're all very much used to. That really starts to take a toll on us as a society. And, I think when we talk about the whole concept of mental health, there's really, two pieces of that component. There's a very much needed clinical side. And I think many of us understand that, clinical can technically be a little bit more reactionary. So if we're faced with a problem, we want to talk to a therapist or a counselor or call a hotline to provide that immediate support. But I think what I want to talk about today is really focusing in on that non-clinical holistic support, because tapping into that is really the way to help prevent getting yourself to a place where your emotions and your struggles and your challenges just are weighing on you, and you become overwhelmed and you're not able to really focus on being a better version of yourself. The Travis Manion Foundation and many other community-based organizations like the Elizabeth Dole Foundation, Wounded Warrior Project, TAPS, Team Red, White, and Blue. There's so many out there. And a lot of what we're trying to provide is that strong support community, because when you have that strong support community, that really addresses two of the most important protective factors that the CDC points out for mental health. And again, those are having that sense of purpose and strong relationships. And I think in order for you to be able to understand, how do you see the benefits from focusing in? I think many of us struggle with, how do we find the time to focus on our well-being? How do we find the time to take care of ourselves? It's challenging because we're all pulled in so many different directions. But the one thing that I really want to reiterate before we get into some of the various activities on how you can do that and how to support that is really the importance of consistency and discipline. No matter what you're doing, you can't just try something once. You can't write down something you're grateful for one day, and then 20 to 30 days later, you're like, okay, well, I don't feel any different. I still feel overwhelmed and stressed. There's so much value in practicing and putting something into place and being consistent about it. A lot of us use the example of, I want to focus on my fitness. Well, you can't just show up for a workout once a week and think that you're going to be a fitter version of yourself. There's a nutrition component, there's a consistency and a workout routine and regimen that works for you. But you have to figure out what works for you, and being able to set realistic expectations is so incredibly important, but staying and keeping true to that consistency. So I'm going to share in just a few minutes a little bit more about some activities that can help reinforce some of that positive, consistent behavior.
Yeah, thank you, Amy. And I will say, as you were talking about this and the sense of purpose and consistency, it really reminded me of like New Year's. And everybody makes a resolution and we're all going in on fitness or eating healthy, and it lasts for only a few days. Most of us don't complete our resolutions. My most recently was not to eat sugar. It didn't last very long. And it's just about the consistency of it and to keep doing it. And during this whole pandemic, I made it a point. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do what I can to do. I'm going to work out, even if it's just a little bit, every single day. And I put it on, I put like a big sign on my magnet. I was like, try to be moving. Because as you know, working from home, you're sitting a lot. And it's really hard to get motivated. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to just a little bit every day. And it's grown from that. And for the past 2 months, I've been doing a little bit, and it's been feeling great to be able to do that. But I have to say, if I didn't have the consistency of it, everything would fall apart. So it's just a reminder that these little steps that you can take, and for me, it's putting Post-its everywhere. My husband thinks I'm crazy. Like, reminder, don't forget to work out, squat, do this. And it's just little stuff that you can do to try to help you to guide through that. So I'm excited to hear about these activities, because I know we can all do a better job at our sense of purpose and putting this together and helping our own well-being, especially during this pandemic. I know, Amy, you and I spoke, and this whole thing has been very overwhelming for everybody. So this is going to lead us. I'm going to bring Aubrey back on here, and we're going to go to our second poll. I'm going to go ahead and end this poll here. So it looks like, based off of the questions that we asked here, that majority of the group has done everything that we listed for dealing with stress, whether it's yoga, meditation, physical activity, journaling. It seems like the highest one at 67% is going to be connecting with friends and family. So that's really telling as well, and physical activity. So there's a tie there with those two results. As for their involvement with the foundation, a lot of people, it seems at least 2 people have participated in an event, service project, mentorship, which is great, Amy. It seems like everybody seems to be really familiar with this organization, and only about half of the group had never heard of the foundation before. So that's great. And I'll share those results right now. And then I'm going to go ahead and launch the second poll here, and have Aubrey go ahead and take us away, because we definitely want to talk about our next winners, and then we're going to get into our activity, which will be really exciting, so that we can learn these ways that Amy's going to share with us of how we can really apply all these healthy hacks, and to see what Amy has been doing so successfully. So maybe we can take a little lesson from her in that. I'll let Aubrey take it away.
Yeah, and Jasmine, you have some encouraging words happening in this chat box about your no sugar and husband telling you to do some squats, all about baby steps. So we're on the right page here. We're going to make it work. So as you can see, we just launched a second poll for you guys to fill out. Again, same sort of scenario as poll 1. Our first question is, why do you think you are currently not taking the time that you need for yourself? We realize there could be several different answers to this, so you can pick as many of these answers that apply to you. There's not enough time in my day. I know I personally feel that way. I am too tired or fatigued, also feel that way too. Eating and schooling consumes all of my energy. Or when I do have free time, I feel the need to do household chores. And we all know that we can get bogged down with all of that. So that is the first question of this poll. The second question of this poll that we have is, what are your biggest struggles during COVID-19? And again, you could have several answers for this. So we welcome all of the answers that apply to you. The first one is homeschooling children. Second one is my caregiving role has increased. I feel isolated as your third option. There is a lack of motivation or overall frustration. So those are 2 poll questions to complete. Again, we'll leave this up for the next couple of minutes. Please take the time to answer our questions. We love having all of the feedback and engagement with all of you. And we want to know about how things are going. So
before you move on, Aubrey, Amy, will you share with us, what about you? What do you think is your biggest, what are you having the hardest time dealing with and taking time for yourself right now? And what are you dealing with COVID-19? I know homeschooling is going to be a big one that goes on there, and the increased caregiving role.
Yeah. You know, for me, it's honestly, I am a new mom. I have an 8-month-old daughter, and my husband is an essential worker for the government. So I find that, you know, as many of us who are trying to, you know, care for others, whether it's, you know, our loved ones in our life, our children, homeschooling, sometimes I just feel like no matter how many hours are in a day, I can't finish everything that I need to do. And I also feel conflicted that, you know, I'm so busy ensuring that the work that we're doing is continuing to move forward and provide help and support for our members. But I also have to remember how, you know, I need to be here for my family as well. And I find a really hard time. I have this like struggle of like, which do I prioritize more? And sometimes I just feel like I'm failing at all of it. because of the fact that I can't leave my house or go out and do or see the people and hug the people I care the most about. It's hard. And I know that's what everybody's feeling, you know?
Absolutely. I think for me, it's the isolation has really gotten to me with all of this. And I used to think I was an introvert. I don't know if I am anymore with that. It's really challenged that notion of feeling that. So I feel like the connecting to others and having workouts with friends and, you know, thank goodness the ability with the foundation to be able to still work during all of this and have that as the only distraction that I do have. But I do think that isolation has been a huge part of it. And I think a lack of motivation comes too with certain things. Of the weekends, I feel like I'm way less productive. I don't know what to do anymore.
I know.
All right. Is anybody else experiencing this? Feel free to say it in the chat as well. But I don't know what to do on my weekends. I'm like so confused.
Yeah. It don't feel like weekends anymore. That's for sure.
Exactly. It's changed. So that has really changed the way that we're going about things. Well, thank you all as you continue to answer the polls. I'll let Aubrey give away 2 more prizes and then Amy's going to get into the activities.
Yes, thank you. So we have 2 more lucky winners for today. Again, these folks are going to receive a $25 Amazon gift card, Wounded Warrior Project journal, and a Travis Manion Foundation mixed swag bag. So a whole bunch of goodies there. So we're really excited. Our first winner of this second go around is going to be Megan Weatherford. So congratulations to Megan. I will reach out to you in the chat, get all of your information to make sure that we get you all of your swag and goodies for today. So Megan Weatherford, congratulations. Second one is going to be Carrie Fisher. So again, congratulations to Carrie. Again, I'll reach out to you in the chat box, but we're really excited and we hope that made your day a little bit brighter. So if there are questions, I know the chat is getting active. If there are questions, please feel free to submit those as well. We'll get to those at the end. And I'll turn it back over to Jasmine and Amy.
All right, Amy, I'm going to go ahead now and share my screen so that we can get into some of these awesome activities that are going to be on the Travis Manion Foundation website. So let me bring up this first one here. I hope you all can see that. Okay, does that look good for all of you? Okay, great. Amy, I'll let you go ahead and start here with the Wellbeing Challenge. Can you tell us a little bit about this and what we should really learn from this and how we can start applying this to our lives?
Yeah, Jasmine, I think a lot of the common theme, and I know we were chatting about this just offline, is that everyone is, I think I heard something, it's like, we're all in the same storm together, but all of the boats that we're in are different, you know?
Is that true? Yeah.
I think I saw it on a meme or something, but I was like, they're onto something here. This is, we all have our own different ways of navigating this storm. So for me, I, as many of you, do not have a lot of time. And I think when I try to think about how do I take time to focus on my well-being and being a better version of myself, because when I'm a better version of myself, I'm a better version of Amy to my family, my colleagues, and everyone else that I have relationships with, and my friends. So I talked a little bit earlier about our Spartan Development Center, which is our online learning platform. And I encourage all of you to please use these resources. This one specifically is our Wellbeing Challenge calendar. And this was designed as a template for the month of May, but clearly you can see you can use this month to month and make it work. And I just find that sometimes these small 10 to 15 minute gestures and having that consistency of doing it every day can really help improve my overall mental mindset. And I just think right now with everything that we're faced, it's so important to just take that small amount of time and dig into this. And a lot of these things, we talked about the various challenges that everyone's faced. I mean, you can see that one of the days it's call someone you love, that simple interaction, making their day and making you feel like you're making a positive impact can go such a long way in your overall emotions and kind of keeping your mood in check during this time.
I love this. And I'll say some of the ones that really stood out to me. One, have a dance party to your favorite song. I tend to do this while I'm cooking and things like that by myself. And I do feel like when obviously nobody else is looking and I'm not like live streaming it, but it is pretty fun to just like, you know, have a second, listen to your favorite song, feel good about yourself, and just like have a good time listening to something positive. And I always feel like I'm in a better mood after I do that. And another good one that I really like on here is taking a bath or putting on a face mask. Nothing is better than just putting on a face mask and just watching like something on Netflix. And then I feel like I'm somehow getting a little more relaxed. My skin is getting better in the process. So I love all of these. And I think these are easy enough to do and not time consuming at all. I think we've all been cooking home meals for a while. That's the only one I'll say seems like every day we're doing, unless some of us are, you know, reaching our limit on Grubhub and DoorDash. But I do like a lot of these, and host a Zoom karaoke party. That would be so fun. So doing something interactive like that, I know it can feel like Zoom overload these days, but separating some time to reach out and see the people that you care about even during this can be really nice as a change of pace. To have a fun Zoom call, I know this is a fun Zoom call, but in general, to have a fun Zoom call with your friends and family, I think is really great.
Yeah.
Go an entire day without complaining. I'm gonna give that one to my husband, and I'm gonna see if he can do it.
Yeah, I know. That was actually one I was going to call out. And the other one that I actually had the hardest time with was to go to bed 1 hour earlier than planned, because I feel like we're all living Groundhog Day. And
yes,
your point earlier on the whole motivation piece, sometimes I get very wrapped in Netflix as like an outlet of therapy at the end of the evening. So it's hard for me to take a step back. But the one night that I did it, I was so happy the next day because I felt more rested than I had felt. I didn't realize that an hour would make that much of a difference in like my overall mental state.
Oh, exactly. It's funny because looking at this makes me think, like, just about, I think a week ago, a friend of mine, we're sleeping really late. We're waking up right when we have to like start work. You know what I mean? Like just rolling out of bed. And I was like, what am I going to do transitioning out of this when the stay-at-home orders, I know some are being lifted now, like, how am I going to go back to like a regular routine? And so we both put a challenge to ourselves to be like, hey, let's start like waking up and doing a workout together at 8 a.m. on like certain days. So like we are forced to have to get out of bed at a normal hour instead of like waking up and being like, okay, I'm ready for a team call, you know, all over the place.
I know.
So I think stuff like this is really helpful. So I'm going to go to the next. So you can share with us this next activity here.
Yeah.
You want to go ahead and explain the notice, name, and navigate?
Yeah. So when we talk about all of our online, online resources for personal development, this is actually one of my favorite activities because I just think it's so applicable right now in this environment that we're in. It talks a lot about, you know, understanding your emotions, emotional intelligence, and you'll see the definitions here. It's the capacity to be aware of, control, and express one's emotions. Well, I use this activity in my mind on multiple occasions throughout the day, and I find it so helpful just to create that mindful space of being aware. When I will give you an example, and I'm sure this scenario looks very similar for many of you out there. You know, I was on a work call and I could hear my 8-month-old daughter screaming her lungs out during her nap in the other room. And I was having a very difficult time focusing on the work conversation because I knew I needed to go and check on her, and I could see through the monitor that I needed to tend to that immediately. So I, you know, kind of practice this whole idea of notice that I am not going to a good place with my mental and emotional state because I'm very stressed and I feel torn between that conflict of, do I focus on the work piece? I felt like I was coming across, you know, when you talk about the name element, naming those emotions, you know, I'm anxious, I'm stressed, I feel anxiety because I need to be in one place, but I'm supposed to be here focusing on the work call. But then the biggest part of this is how to navigate that. You know, I actually decided it was more beneficial to actually tell the person that I was speaking with on my work call that I just needed about 3 to 4 minutes to tend to my daughter, and then I would call them right back. And I was in such a stronger place to actually just accept that this is an interesting time, and you know, I didn't have any childcare here to help support my daughter. So I needed to be in 2 places at one time. So I just decided to be honest and upfront and assess the situation and navigate my way through that. And when I came back to that conversation after tending to my daughter, I was just in a much better headspace to have a very, you know, thoughtful and productive conversation. So I love this activity.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great. I'd like to get your advice on myself with this activity of how I'm trying to think of how I would apply this now. So during this whole pandemic, I'm sure a lot of you are experiencing this, but in my case, my husband owns a small business, which is a gym, which means that they're not, you know, you're not able to go to them right now. So that has been really stressful. And so I feel like his stress, I'm trying to be the positive person at home. So I'm trying to be like, handle it all. And like, we're going to get through this, and trying to be like that all-star and putting through all of this. But it can be really hard. And I feel like I've been noticing that sometimes his emotions are, I feel like I'm starting to take on that same like stress, because you do with the person you love, anything that their stress becomes your stress as well. So I think sometimes I need to start applying this, and I need to name like, where is the stress coming from? And really try to navigate like how I can control that, because the worst thing you can do, and I know a lot of you can attest, when you're married, you're in a relationship, like when one of you is stressed out, somebody needs to be the calming voice sometimes, and somebody needs to steer the ship, and I'm steering the ship. So sometimes I need to figure out a better way to navigate that waters, to keep, so that we can keep it all in together. Does that make sense? Do you have any advice for that when you're, as someone who's like married and taking on that type of stress, like how does this exercise will help me to like control and be more aware of like which emotions are mine and which emotions are his?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, Jasmine, you bring up a great point that so many of us can relate to. And I would say, you know, in my opinion, I think it's really helpful when you can actually address the emotions that you're dealing with, because I will tell you, in many situations, before I kind of like instilled this mindset and this activity in my mind, I would often just let things build up, emotions that I was feeling. And I feel like that ultimately, like, I'm a very patient and calm person, but you can only put so much on your plate until you sort of have that meltdown or that moment. And I feel like that's potentially where you're headed, unless you sit down, address, and say, it's okay to be anxious, concerned, frustrated, and stressed and nervous about what the future looks like. But I think sitting down and actually owning what that looks like and being upfront about it and talking through that and how you're going to navigate what the next steps will look like. I just think it helps us deal with some of these challenges that we're faced with on the day-to-day versus ignoring them and letting us get to a place where we're overwhelmed by all of the different emotions and scenarios that we just haven't taken the time to sit down and say, hey, this is life right now.
Yeah.
I have to feel this way, but this is how I'm going to try to navigate a way forward.
Yeah, and you know what, you bring up another good point that I know a lot of my friends, and actually I've seen the caregivers talking about too. It feels like with this pandemic situation that there's like 2 ways you can go. You can be like using it as like a really benefit, and like some of us are just frustrated and angry, and you know, and and I feel like sometimes it makes it feel like it's not okay to be like frustrated. And It's not that you're frustrated, like obviously we know this is serious, like we understand all the health crisis that it is, but I think it's okay to feel frustrated in the situation. And I think so many times we're so hard on ourselves to just feel how we feel.
Right.
And sometimes it's okay, and especially with this is uncharted waters for everybody. And I feel like sometimes, and with using an exercise like this, it's okay to step back and say, you know what? I am feeling like really frustrated with the situation. I'm taking on way more than I was before. You know, it's hard to balance work life now, and there is no work-life balance, you know, and we've lost a lot in this process, whether it's losing in, you know, engagements, events that people have planned. And I think with this type of exercise, it's okay to kind of navigate that and say, you know what, today I am feeling frustrated, especially during the pandemic. Like, it's okay to have bad days during this. And I feel like people aren't talking about it as much during it, because you want to be positive and you don't want to seem like that downer, but it's okay to feel like some days this sucks, you know, some days you're like, this is really hard. And I feel like with exercises like this and kind of thinking about how we're emotionally dealing with things and addressing it and naming it rather than letting it build up, which I'm sure a lot of you are experiencing now. There's a build up with this whole pandemic of how your emotional state is. And we have to kind of let that go. So with an exercise like this, I think it's super helpful to control those emotions and identify that and reflect on what you're feeling. Like, is it because of this situation or is it something larger? And sometimes it is. Sometimes I have to lay back and be like, I feel like the only reason I'm acting this way is because I'm in quarantine.
Right.
I need to, like, it's okay to take a step back and say like, I feel like I'm acting like I'm getting annoyed more than usual when you're, you know, stuck at home with the same person. So you're like, man, why am I acting like this?
Right.
It's okay with things like that to do that. Have you been doing that as well with things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I feel like, you know, we always talk about, you know, we've got to be strong and we're all better together. And those are very true statements. But I also feel like we have to embrace that there are challenges. But I think taking the time to manage those expectations around what that looks like is so important and so valuable. It's okay to have, you know, bad days, but I think sitting down and recognizing what was bad about that and how you can address those feelings and how you're going to find a way to maybe not have as bad of a day as that day was. You know, this is all very normal, but I do think we have to embrace some of the challenges that we face.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think so too. Thanks so much. This is a great one, Amy. So I'm going to go to the next screen here. 1 second. So you guys should see, okay, so I'm going to bring this up here. Can you guys see the activities here? This site? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So can you explain a little bit about this? Because I know you've talked about and you've spoken with me about why character matters and what this whole process is within the foundation. And I can say, I get it, but I still have questions. So can you explain a little more of like where this came from, that character does matter and ways you can apply it? And I know you also mentioned how you can apply this character does matter with children. So would just love to hear more with that, because I know, as we just expressed, kids are really feeling this pandemic situation as well. So if there's anything we can, advice we can offer to our caregivers, veterans, and those military children who are experiencing all of this right now as well, and a sense of loss with this whole quarantine situation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, you know, our Character Does Matter program is really our keystone initiative at the foundation. And obviously pre-pandemic, it looked a lot different. You know, we found that there was a need for positive role models in young adults' life, and that, you know, over half of those that were reported were living in households that didn't have, you know, maybe they didn't have a home that had two parents. Maybe they were faced with different situations. Maybe they were living with a guardian. You know, things that created them to not be able to create an environment for them to understand, you know, how am I going to shape myself? What are my values? What is important to me? And we really found that our military community embraced their experiences, you know, whether it's through different moments where they were resilient, moments that they actually had to step up and kind of hone into what are my values and how do I live those out on a daily basis. So we built a curriculum around 24 different character strengths, and that is how our curriculum is broken down. And you'll see this reflected on our Spartan Development Center, which is the page that you have up here, Jasmine. But this was really designed because we wanted to provide that mentorship. It also provides an opportunity for the military community to feel as if they're able to continue serving, and serving in a way that's very relevant. And what not better way to take your experiences from what you've learned and shape our future generation in a positive way, to be assets within their own communities, their own schools, and in their own homes.
Absolutely. So is it the easiest way? So this next tab I have on here, is this how anybody can easily get involved and sign up here to get all the resources and access to the videos and the character development and everything we've gone through here?
Yep. So from what we were just looking at, those are videos where we have military community members who are actually teaching those 24 different character strengths. And on that same portal, there are activities and lesson plans. And we've had a tremendous outsharing of people in our community being so appreciative of having those resources to incorporate in their day-to-day homeschooling activities.
Right.
It's kind of that character development component, but it's a really nice way to bring the family together to talk and do something that can be, so meaningful.
Absolutely.
But the page that you have right now, Joining the Mission, that's the best way for you to stay in tune with all of the different initiatives, resources that I've shared today. You can click down there and, affiliate yourself with a different, whether you're a veteran, inspired civilian, caregiver, military family member. Like I said earlier, there's something for everyone. But this is definitely the best way to start, getting involved with what we're doing.
Yeah, that's great. And then could you also share, because I know we'll want to dive in soon to some of the questions, you have 2 webinars that are coming up as well that you wanted to share about.
Yeah, so with May being the focus around Mental Health Awareness Month, we've put together multiple opportunities for everyone to take those small snippets of time to work on your well-being and your mental health. So this Friday, we are actually hosting our first webinar at the foundation. I'm actually hosting it with several other guests.
You're doing great.
Maybe this is a good practice for that. But we would love for all of you to join us. You can register here and you'll receive a Zoom link to be a part of that. But it's kind of a deeper discussion on the practical application, but also on the educational side of some of the information around sort of this positive, healthy growth mindset as well. So I encourage you all to join in on that. That's Friday at noon.
We'll share the links after this as well. We'll follow up tomorrow. And then what about this one here, the Wellbeing Wednesday workouts?
Yeah, so every Wednesday, we have had one of our team members lead sort of that 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock time frame where you can bring your family members. We've had plenty of kids, pets, everybody join in on this, but it's just a small workout. It's a time to reflect. We talk a little bit about some of the areas of well-being that I've spoken about today and what that looks like and how you can just take some time to actually reflect in on that. So I would encourage all of you to sign up for that. We have one tomorrow also at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing my screen here. So I'm going to bring Aubrey back up as well, because I know she's been gathering in all the questions. But before we do that, just a little bit of the poll results here. It looks like majority of people are too tired and fatigued by the end of the day. So that seems to be what's keeping them. And majority of the struggles during COVID is that the caregiving role has increased. So that is one of the main struggles, of course, with our community. So I'll share those results right now as well for you guys to see here. And then we will have Aubrey list out some questions for you, Amy. So this is questions from the group here, and I'm going to look through the chat too to see what y'all have been talking about during this.
Yes, awesome. Thank you. So just as a reminder to everyone who's joining us today, if you do have a question, we have about the next 10 minutes or so really to answer any questions that you might have. There is a Q&A box in your control panel, so please feel free to type those into us to make sure we get them out to Amy. I'm going to just put up this questions slide here. You'll also notice the Travis Manion Foundation website is listed on this slide. We will share all information about the foundation, as well as we had a couple of questions about sharing the documents in the calendar. We'll get that to you as well in our follow-up email that will be sent tomorrow. Amy, question for you on the Travis Manion Foundation webinars. Do you, if somebody can't attend those but is very interested in the content, do you also then post those webinars somewhere specifically for people to tune back in?
Yes. So on the resource page that we looked at with all the different notice, name, and navigate activities and the calendar, those are all shared. Once they've been recorded, we add them to that Spartan Development Center site as well too.
Excellent.
So you can watch them at any time if you're not available during those live sessions.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you. What is your favorite or maybe favorites of the activities that's on the calendar? Do you have one that you tend to get the most excited for to do?
The one that I actually really, it was a good thing, but it was also hard, was finding something not to complain about each day.
That's a great one. Yeah.
So relatable.
And it's hard. It's really hard.
It is hard. It is very hard. And I try very hard. And I've always had just an optimistic attitude about whatever is thrown my way in life. But I felt like sometimes, especially during the pandemic, it's so easy to get yourself, especially if you have, as you were sharing, there's so many extra, roles at home that we're taking on because we are in isolation and, we have children at home. And sometimes we're home by ourselves. I've talked to a lot of people that are in quarantine by themselves, and that's a whole nother challenge to face. So I have to very consciously make sure that at the end of the day, I make myself go through 3 things that I was grateful for that day. And it helps really just shift my mindset because it is very easy to complain in this environment.
Great advice. We should all be doing that. 3 things we're grateful for.
I love that. And it sounds harder than it is, but then you start to realize how much the little things add up to big things.
Yeah.
You start to list them out that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. Awesome. You mentioned this a little bit earlier, but obviously a lot of folks, the isolation is really hard. And for some people, they really rely on physical touch, like hugs and just being able to be with somebody in person. Do you have any tips or tricks or strategies for helping somebody in their mental mindset, for somebody who relies so much on that social and physical connection with other people?
That's an excellent point, Aubrey. I will tell you, I have a very close friend of mine, and she is, I would say, overly extroverted and really relies on, she is a hugger. She needs to have that, physical contact with people. The Zoom and the webinars become it's just not the same for her. And I know many of us feel that same way, but I have noticed out of all of my friends that it's really impacted her the most. And what I have tried to do, there are a lot of things going on, but at least once a week, I try very hard to pick up the phone and just give her a call. And sometimes we'll turn that into a FaceTime so I can show her, my daughter and some of the other things that are going on. But I feel like I just try to check in on her because I think checking in on people right now and that buddy check support system is the best that we can do for the time being, but it's so important and it makes a difference. Like she actually told me last week, she's like, I always know you're going to call me at least once a week now. And I feel like before we would sometimes go several weeks and not even have a conversation. So she was trying to look at this as that she was grateful that some of the relationships that she doesn't always get to maintain, like the one that I have because we live in 2 different time zones, that we were actually able to connect a little bit more. So she tried to find the silver lining in not being able to necessarily see all of us in person now and again. So
perfect. I will say that's very true for me too. I have been seeing people more frequently and been on more routine check-ins with family and friends than I was before this. And I am grateful for that because I'm grateful that I have the time, but I'm also grateful that it continues to make you feel like you're connected, even though you can't physically be present with people. So I definitely can relate to that a lot. We're getting a lot of really wonderful messages about the gratitude journal. Christina calls it a happy journal. I love that. I love that title. So that's wonderful. We do have a question about when you cheat on resolutions. So this is a great one, but what is your advice to get back on track when you've cheated on a resolution? It seems like this is probably the time where, you know, the cheating's happening. People are slipping up a little bit, of course, because there are no rules in quarantine time. But, what do you have? What is a great tip or trick to get back on track and to keep that mindset?
I really think the biggest thing is don't beat yourself up over the fact that you didn't stay on track. I have a lot of people that are always telling me like, oh, I was going to do this and I was going to do that, but I lost the motivation to do it, or I'm too tired at the end of the day. One of my girlfriends that we had our daughters about 2 months apart from each other. Our goal was to lose the rest of our baby weight, and then quarantine happened. So I have a huge sweet tooth, and so does she. So each week, we do like a workout together over Zoom, and then we kind of write out like our workout plans for the rest of the week. But we went off track for 2 weeks, and then we finally just addressed it, and we were like, look, we're stuck in these weird times. I needed a brownie to make me feel better. I ate the brownie, but let's put a plan in place to get ourselves back on track and move forward. And I will say within the last week and a half, we have not had any brownies yet. And we have stayed on track with our little like plan for the week. So, and then we text each other and check in and say like, how did you do your workout today? So
it helps me to have an accountability partner. So yeah. I completely understand. If I always feel a certain way, if I check in on somebody who's doing a great job and who hasn't slipped up, and it makes me want to keep doing well for them. And so, yeah, having that accountability is everything. But obviously, I mean, we have a lot of different resolutions. Like not everybody's resolutions are about food or about fitness. They could be just having that gratitude. So, you know, a resolution could be people just finding 3 small things that they're grateful for each day. And that really is a mind shift, but also a resolution too, to keep in mind. So awesome. Thank you. We have Robert who wants to check in with you on a personal note. He wants to know how your daughter's doing and your husband. Because what you do brings so much excitement and it's so wonderful to see. So he just wants to check in on you.
Thank you, Robert. That's so sweet.
That is so sweet.
Do this once a week more often. No.
Yeah.
That's very, very kind. I will say the one thing I have been grateful for is in my work, I often do travel now and again, and my husband also does as well. And we both took a step back when we were frustrated and said, you know, this is really the most time that we've actually been able to be together as a family, and how fortunate we are that it's in our daughter's first year of life. You know, there might have been small milestones that we would have missed if we weren't in quarantine. And, you know, even when it can be a little frustrating and overwhelming, that's been the silver lining for us, is looking at that time spent together.
I love that.
I've also seen a couple of my friends have young children, and they have been very, very active with their toddlers. And it's easy to think that, you know, toddlers pick up on a lot of things and young kids pick up on a lot of things, and fear is one of those things they pick up on. But I mean, the positive in all of this is that the young children are going to remember this time as like mom and dad were here and had a great family time. And so that's also a great takeaway out of all of this, a positive out of all of this, to keep your mind healthy. So I want to be cognizant of time. We have just a few minutes. Is there anything, Amy, that you'd like to just share? Any last final thoughts before we wrap up today?
Yeah, I just, again, you know, Jasmine, Aubrey, like, I'm just so appreciative to have the opportunity to share. And even if there was one thing that I shared today that helped someone out who was able to be here today, I think that's the silver lining in all of this. It's not about, you know, there isn't a, you know, one size fits all for every scenario. And I just hope that some of the resources, some of the ways to get involved are very valuable in making positive steps forward. And, you know, we talked about collectively that, you know, this is a challenging time. And I think addressing and owning the fact that we are all struggled and challenged with different elements right now is okay. But I think being proactive about taking the right measures to check in on others, help each other out, is only going to benefit us as we come out of the other side of this pandemic. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Amy. We appreciate it so much for you being here today and sharing your story, starting off with that. That means a lot to our caregivers as they're always sharing their story as well. And for you to share these healthy hacks and what we can do. We're so appreciative of your time, for you being here today. And you're a webinar star. You're doing amazing. So I just want to close out here. Thank you again, Amy, so much. Just wanted to say also, for those that are not part of our Hidden Heroes Caregiver Community Facebook page, we'll be sending out information of how to register there. More information we'll be sending from the Travis Manion Foundation. We'll send all the links and all the information Amy provided. And of course, we want to end and thank who made all of this possible, which is Wounded Warrior Project and the VA Hospital, for their partnership with us. Without their support, we wouldn't be able to have these C3 episodes that we're calling them, in order to share and innovate more with you all. As I mentioned at the top as well, feel free to submit ideas to us at info@elizabethdolefoundation.org. We want to hear from you all, any ideas, speakers, anything that you have that you'd like to hear more about. We're happy to do the digging and come up with new content ideas based off of the feedback that we receive from each of you. You'll be receiving a follow-up email from us, but thank you. Thank you to Aubrey. Thank you to Amy for your participation in this. We hope all of our participants found this session to be informative and inspirational, and that you'll stay in touch with our caregiver community. Just always remember, you're not alone. We're here for you. Collectively, all of our foundations in partnership together, we're all working to make this better for each other. So just remember that we're here for you whenever you need us, and feel free to reach out. Amy, thank you again. And I hope everyone that participated, thank you, and have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate it. Bye, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.